Welcome to the Nursing Academy. We are back with another educative video. So to the old members, welcome back. To the new members, subscribe and be part of our family. So today we're talking about the organization of the body. So the human body consists of trillions of atoms arranged in specific ways and thousands of chemical reactions that proceed in a very orderly manner. The human body is organized in different structural levels of increasing complexity. Each higher level incorporates the structure and functions of the previous level. It starts at the lowest level with atoms, molecules, and compounds, and then proceeds to form cells, tissues, organs, and systems. So the purpose of this section is to enable us to gain an understanding of anatomy and physiology with emphasis on normal body structure and function. So this is the organization of the body. First an atom, then a molecule, which forms a cell, a tissue. If you remember in the previous video, we talked about how many cells form tissues and then tissues to an organ. An organ, we have an organ system, then we have an organism, which is the human body. So body systems and design. As you can see from the structural organization of the human body, body systems are the highest and the most complex level. A system is an organization of varying numbers and kinds of organs which together perform complex functions for the body. So there are 10 major systems in the human body, which us as anatomy students must know. So there is the skeletal, muscular, nervous, endocrine, cardiovascular, lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary, reproductive. So we need to know this for us to pass anatomy and for us to gain an understanding in anatomy. So cavities of the body. The organs that make up the system of the bodies are contained in 4 cavities as shown in the figure below. So we have the cranial cavity. This one contains the brain and all the organs in the head. Then there's the thoracic cavity. The ventral cavity is a combination of the thoracic and abdominal cavity. Then there's the dorsal cavity and the pelvic cavity behind with the spinal cavity. So these small ones, these are part of the main cavities, but the systems of the body are contained in 4 main cavities. So the cranial cavity contains the brain and its boundaries are formed by the bones of the skull. So these are, I hope you watched the previous video or you have an understanding in anatomy for you to know these terms. So anteriorly, 1 frontal bone, laterally 2 temporal bones, posteriorly behind 1 occipital bone, superiorly is on top 1 parietal bone, and inferiorly 1 sphenoid and 1 ethmoid bone and parts of the frontal, temporal and occipital bones. Then the thoracic cavity. This cavity is situated in the upper part of the trunk. Its boundaries are formed by the following bony framework and supporting muscles. So anteriorly in front, the sternum, the costal cartilages of the ribs. Laterally, 12 pairs of ribs and the intercostal muscles. We said laterally is further from the midline. Posteriorly behind, the thoracic vertebrae and the intervertebral discs between the bodies of the vertebrae. Superiorly, the structures forming the root of the neck. This is on top, meaning on top of the body superiorly. Then inferiorly, the diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle. So the diaphragm is dome-shaped. Organs and structures of the thoracic cavity. So the main organs and structures contained in the thoracic cavity are, there is the trachea, the 2 bronchi and 2 lungs, the heart, aorta, superior and inferior vena cava, numerous other blood vessels, and the esophagus. So the abdominal cavity. is the largest cavity in the body and it's oval-shaped. It is situated in the main part of the trunk and its boundaries are superiorly the diaphragm, which separates it from the thoracic cavity. So it's more like, okay, let's imagine the diaphragm is a border post, like the border separates different countries, for example, Congo and Zambia. So the diaphragm is separating the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. Then anteriorly, the muscles forming the anterior abdominal wall. Posteriorly, the lumbar vertebrae and muscles forming the posterior abdominal wall. Then laterally, the lower ribs and parts of the muscles of the abdominal wall. Inferiorly, the pelvic cavity, which it is continuous. As a rule, the abdominal cavity is divided into 9 regions. This facilitates the description of the positions of the organs and structures in the cavity. So, these are the organs and structures of the abdominal cavity. So, as you can see, there is sorry, let me get the pen right here. Sorry. Okay. So, we have the organs and structures of the abdominal cavity. So this is a human right here, someone standing here, and you can see the abdominal cavity. So we have the rib cage. These are ribs cut. Then there is the diaphragm, the liver, the gallbladder, this green thing here, the stomach, the large intestines, the small intestines, the pelvis, and the rectum. So here, this is on the other one is the greater omentum. Yes. Okay, so I will just leave this diagram for a few seconds so that you may look at it. Okay. We move to the pelvic cavity. The pelvic cavity is roughly funnel-shaped and extends from the lower end of the abdominal cavity. The boundaries are superiorly. I bet by now we've understood what superiorly, anteriorly, posteriorly, laterally, and inferiorly means. It is superiorly, it's continuous with the abdominal cavity. Anteriorly, the pubic bones. Posteriorly, sacrum and the coccyx. Okay, these we'll talk about them in the locomotor system. Laterally, the innominate bones. Inferiorly, the muscles of the pelvic floor. So, organs and structures of the pelvic cavity. The pelvic cavity contains the following organs and structures: the sigmoid colon, rectum, and anus, some loops of the small intestine, urinary bladder, lower parts of the uterus, and the urethra. In the female, the organs of the reproductive system are the uterus, uterine tubes, ovaries, and the vagina. In male, some of the organs of the reproductive system, the prostate gland, seminovesicles, somatic cord, different ducts, vas deferens, ejaculatory ducts, and the urethra, common to the reproductive and urinary systems. So these are the regions of the abdomen. We have the epigastric region just on top. In the middle, we have the umbilical region. Below, we have the hypogastric. Then we have the right iliac region, left iliac region. Umbilical, we have right lumbar region, left lumbar region. Left hypochondriac region, right hypochondriac region. So as health practitioners or as health practitioners to be, we must know these regions, especially when explaining pain to other health practitioners, saying, I feel a pain in my right lumbar region. That's more precise. And then here we have the diaphragm. Of course, the diaphragm is the border. Let's call it the border post in brackets. So right upper quadrant, or on the other diagram, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant, left lower quadrant. So having looked at the abdominal cavities, in the next video we shall go back to the structural levels of the human body, which we mentioned at the beginning of this section. If you loved this video or found it educative, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment to be interactive. Thank you very much.